Hey, this is Jenny Jones, Digital Marketing Toolshed. All right, so listen, if this is your first time to this channel, please go ahead and like, subscribe. If you're an entrepreneur, you must like and subscribe because I'm always bringing different tools and different ways to break them down and help you make technical sense of most of them to help you with your bottom line. So what I wanted to do, got some DMs, people reaching out to me and says, hey, listen, I'm trying to figure out all this technical jargon. You know, my provider said I have to set this up. I have to set up this DNS and all that. Let's do this quick DNS exercise. And we're going to start with domains 101, just so you get it right. And then I'm going to help you transfer and or forward a domain here towards the end. So just listen up here, bear with me, right? So it's a lot of moving parts, but if you get it and digest it, you're going to be very beneficial. So, all right, so let's start off here. So everybody pretty much knows what a domain is, right? When you purchase a domain, it says, hey, I bought pizza.com. Yay, it's worth $1 million, right? It probably is, I don't know. But pizza.com, right? Just say, hey, I got pizza.com. I own it, right? I paid $13 for a year for it. And so I own it for a year, right? So sometimes they're often given a challenge to say, hey, listen, I want to make it go somewhere else, or I want when someone types in pizza.com to do something else and go somewhere else or forward somewhere else, right? A lot of times you're challenged with that. Let's understand the dynamics of it first. This is pizza.com, but you may have an opportunity to create a subdomain, right? That is a subdomain of the pizza.com. In this instance, we will call it flavor. So we'll call it flavor.pizza.com. You still own pizza.com, but you also own a subdomain or a child of pizza.com. How'd that sound, right? So you own pizza.com. This is your pizza.com website. And someone says, man, I love their cheese pizza. So many people love cheese pizzas. You don't want to mix them up when they come to pizza.com. So you say, hey, listen, I'm going to create a subdomain right off of my main website, and we're going to call that cheese.pizza.com. See what I did there? So that's cheese. And when you go there, all you're going to see is a landing page for all different cheese pizzas, right? You know, cheddar cheese, you know, other types of cheese, so on and so forth, right? So then what you can do is you say, hey, you know what? I want to create another subdomain. We're going to call that one pepperoni.pizza.com, right? Trying to make this as easy as possible for you to understand. We still own pizza.com, but I own these. I have 3 websites right now. I have pizza.com, I have cheese.pizza.com, and I have pepperoni.pizza.com. And I want one more. We'll call this one sausage.pizza.com. And what we're basically doing is we're saying, hey, we own pizza.com, but we want to create these subdomains. You will sometimes, if you need to create a blog, you can say, hey, I want to call it blog.pizza.com. If you go there, you can see how I blog about all these different pizza chains, right? But I still own pizza.com. So with that being said, and the issue came up with me is someone says, hey, my platform owner wants me to create a subdomain called www. Now, so the history of www is when you first got a URL way back in the day, back when it was AOL and all that other stuff, right? When the 56K modem, right? 26K modem, 56K modem. I'm dating myself, but this is where this came from. You had to get on the World Wide Web. So in that case, you had to put www in front of the URL, right? Which was very expensive back then. So www stands for World Wide Web. I know a lot of you guys probably didn't know that, probably dating myself here, but World Wide Web. So www is a subdomain, just like flavor.pizza is a subdomain. Okay. So that's how that works, right? So www, maybe they forced you to put www there. And he says, man, I don't want to use www.pizza.com because nobody's going to put in www. People are just going to use pizza.com. Why? Because it's easy to remember. It's short. It's easy to type in. So as soon as they type in pizza.com, it's going to come up, right? Nobody's going to put in www.pizza.com. There are some ways that when they force you to put in www. pizza.com, you have to do some little trickery and you have to force it back and forward it back to domain.com. Right. And I'm going to show you how to do that. Let's get into it. So what we're going to do here is we're going to look at the basics, and the basics, look at the basics, because what you would have to do is you'd have to go to your domain name server, right? This is where the different things of your domain is located, and the different things that you could do within inside your domain. So sometimes it's called a DNS or cpanel, right? These are the terms, the interchangeable, right? DNS, cpanel. You're like, all right, what do I need to do? Once you get inside there, you're going to be able to make and or create records. These are the three that you would have to do any type of changes to. There's some other ones like text. We're not going to talk about that. Those are fairly easy, fairly standard, but let's talk about the three main ones. So the first one we're going to talk about is A records, right? So A records is this records or maps a name to one or more IP addresses when the IP is known and or stable. So they may be running a server at their particular location. They may say, hey, map everything to our server and then we'll support it. And they may say, hey, it supports, and you're going to see it's going to be an address or an IP address. So this is, hey, map your name to this server. Okay, I would have to create an A record, right? But sometimes when they want to map the name to another domain, another name, they'll use CNAMEs, right? So CNAMEs is it's called canonical naming conventions that they use within the domain name space, right? And so that name supports names as values. So that's where your subdomains could come in. You can create one here, but that would be going directly to an IP address. If they say, hey, we're going to change the IP address, we're going to change the servers, you now have to create a CNAME instead of an A record, right? It can be either one of these, but more than likely it's going to be a CNAME. Sometimes they will do A records, but more than likely as they move larger and become a lot bigger, they will allow you to do CNAMEs, right? And sometimes because of cost too, right? So a CNAME, you're going to have a lot of your supporting subdomains are going to run off of a CNAME. This one I'm using in this instance, it's called blog.pizza.com. Again, the blog would be the sub. Our domain is pizza.com. So you're going to have a CNAME that you're going to set up as blog, and then it's going to point to the domain, which is pizza.com. And then the last one is MX. If you ever wonder what MX stands for, it's an MX mail exchange. It's how your mailbox and your emails talk to each other. And those are supported by email servers. And you'll see SMTP a lot, which is Simple Mail Transfer Protocol. That's the language that produces the headers and all of that to make sure that the post office, the mail exchanges or the post offices make sure email is getting from one place to another. That's beyond the scope of this and what I wanted to show you, right? So we've talked about it, right? Let's do a quick recap. We talked about our subdomains, right? So this is flavor.pizza. This is www.pizza. If they come to you and say, hey, listen, you can only use www.pizza, or you can only use a subdomain to get people back to pizza.com, that can be tricky. So what you want to do is you want to set up the subdomain first, then set up a forward to go back to that. And let's look at how that's going to look, right? So then that's going to look, as I close this out, it's going to look like this. This is a little overwhelming here. The first thing you want to do, right? The first thing you want to do is number one, is you want to set up the subdomain. So this says, hey, you need to use www. It's like, why? I don't want to use www. They says, sorry, that's the way it goes, right? And he says, well, how do I set it up? They're like, it's not our fault. You set it, you figure out how to do it. Ask one of your, and it's like, okay, but I'm using your software. They're like, yeah, but set it up on your own. I'm like, all right, so fine, right? It's not that easy, but that is a little frustrating when they tell you to do it and you don't really know what's going on. So you set your CNAME up first, which this is www, World Wide Web, and then you set that up and they're going to say, have that, they're going to tell you it needs to point here. Set up your CNAME and it needs to point here. right? So once it points there, and I'm going to show you what that looks like. I'm just going to give you an example of what it looks like, right? Once you set it up there, then you're done. That's the first part. All right, so let me kind of walk you through some of the things that you would look for, just some of the familiar areas when you're back here. So this is my DNS, my domain name server, right? And this is, I'm using Google for this. This is a new address that I bought some time ago, jennyjonesfinancial.com, right? So I'm using, this is the raw one. I haven't used it yet. And I was going to set it up for something, but let's just go. Let's work with it here, right? So let me just kind of walk you through these areas. So this is the host name. If I click on the name right there, it's going to tell you jennyjonesfinancial.com. That is my domain name. That is my naked domain name or my root domain name, right? If I type anything here, it's going to start turning into a subdomain. So the example I gave you is pizza. So we'll make this pizza. We'll call it pizza. See how it changed to pizza.jennyjones.com? That would be the subdomain there. And then it says type here. You're going to go here. We talked about A records. Let's look at CNAME. That's the name that we're going to use here. We're going to create a CNAME, right? And so when you do that, it's going to say, hey, what do you want it to be? Do you want it to be, where do you want it to go? Do you want it to go somewhere else, .com, or I want it to go to google.com? I don't know, but you just type that in there. We type Google, right? Let me just give you an example. So when someone goes to pizza.jennyjonesfinancial.com, it's going to take them to google.com, just so that you get an understanding of that. All right, so I set it to 300. 300 is like five minutes, right? I set it there. I kind of force it to go a little bit faster, and then I'll just hit save there. So I'll save it. So that's how you set this up. So it's going to have the 3 areas, the 4 areas that you need to be concerned with. So anytime you come into a DNS area, it's going to ask for host name. It's going to ask for what type of record are you trying to create. This is a CNAME record. And then the TTL, I think it's total time to try to do this transaction or something of that nature. Well, you put the time in there, you select the time here, 10 minutes, 1 hour, 6 hours, so on and so forth. And then you put where do you want it to go? Because you can see here, it only accepts domains. Now, as I mentioned earlier, if I wanted to be an A name, right? A names only accept IP addresses, right? We said that already. 124.72.3.221. So just to give you an idea of the difference, the different types, A is going to ask for domains. CNAME is going to ask for names to exchange your address to, right? And then you hit save. So that's what I wanted to show you there. Now, let me go one step further. The second part is now you need to set up a forward, right? This is going to be a little bit tricky, right? Because soon as you set up the www.pizza.com, it's going to go, if someone puts in www.pizza.com, it's going to go to pizza.com, right? That's just the way this setup goes. It's going to go there, right? It's going to go to pizza.com. But if they go to pizza.com, they're going to get a blank page because you now have to tell Pizza what to do, right? So now, in order to tell Pizza what to do, you now have to tell Pizza to go back to www.pizza.com. And it's going to bring it almost, you have to create a loop. And here's the reason why you have to create a loop, because no root domain, that's another name for naked domain, meaning it doesn't have a subdomain on it. This is pizza.com. That's a naked domain or a root domain, most commonly used as root domain, but it can be known as a naked domain because it doesn't have anything attached to it. It's just one domain. It cannot be used by CNAMEs. It will not work. It's against the actual domain registry rules and all that. It's just, you can't use a CNAME. You can't use a root name going to a CNAME, right? You can't use a CNAME to change a naked or root domain. That's the way it works. So what you then have to do is you have to create a forward for the actual root domains. All right, so I want to show you the trickiest part of this, and I'm going to explain it in the next video. But the trickiest part of this is I want to show you how to do a domain forward, right? They call it a forward, they call it a redirect, but it's really a forward. So inside the Google, I haven't even seen this. It's funny, I haven't seen this on any YouTube video. It's probably out there, I just haven't seen it. Because that's the reason why I created this video. I didn't even think anybody else had it. So you're going to click here and you're going to go to website. So you had DNS here. You're going to be in DNS here, right? You're going to make your changes there. Then you're going to go to website. This is the last particular piece here. You're going to click on domain forward. What you're going to do here is the strangest thing that you've had to do. All right. And this is where this gets people caught up at. They give you this as a blank. What you're going to do here is you're going to go to edit. Right? You're going to go to edit and you are going to remove this box right here. You're going to remove that box, right? You're going to remove that box. Now, what you want to do is go back and you're going to, because both of these are forwards and they just give you an example. Hey, which one do you want to forward? Do you want to forward your subdomain or you want to forward your root domain? Well, we're going to forward our root domain here. So we're going to go root domain, which is jennyjonesfinancial.com, and we're going to forward back to the, I think we said pizza. I didn't even save it in there, but that's what we'll do. .jennyjonesfinancial. So that's what you're going to do. You're going to forward your root, because if you click on this, it gives you the root. It already tells you, don't put anything in here. You have to put that. So you have to forward the root to the sub domain. So in this instance, it could be pizza or it could be www. It sounds weird, sounds strange. But once you do that, you click, hey, listen, when someone comes to the root domain, when someone comes to pizza.com, redirect them to www.pizza.com. And then that www.pizza.com is going to automatically reroute them back because of the CNAME, and it's going to take them back to pizza.com. Listen, this sounds confusing, but this is the logical nature of what's going on. You're setting up one way to go here because that's what the rules you were told to do. But when it gets there, I want to forward it back to the www. So go from www.pizza.com, go over to pizza.com. Once you get to pizza.com, if someone types in pizza.com, I want them to get pizza.com. The only way I can get them to get pizza.com is they have to go back through a forward to www.pizza.com. I know it sounds strange. You can listen to this 100 times, but that's the way you do. And so what you're doing is you're redirecting. You're creating this path, this circle. If you go to www.pizza.com, it's going to take you to pizza.com. If you go to pizza.com, then it's going to take you to www.com. I mean, it's going to take you to www.pizza.com back to pizza.com, right? If you do not set up a forward, it will never make it back. Right. So people will type in pizza.com forever and they will not find you unless they type in www.pizza.com. Right. That happens after the forward. So here's what's going to happen. Let me run it back to you. I'm going to run this play to you again. So you notice you have www.pizza.com over here. Then it cross directs over here, www.pizza.com. And then you have pizza.com. And it cross directs over here with pizza.com. The reason why is because it runs in this big circle. Here's instructions again. Once you set up your CNAME as www.pizza.com, then you set up a forward and say, hey, pizza.com. If someone types pizza.com in the address bar or the URL window up above, I want you, once you see that come through, you tell the instructions, I want you to forward to www.pizza.com. Once that forwards there, it now brings you back to pizza.com. It's an infinite loop, basically, because you're telling one to tell the other to go back to the other. Sounds strange, sounds weird, but that's the way that works. No one explains it like this, but that's literally how it works. If you get one side to tell other side to do, you says, okay, once you come here, go back here and then go back to the other side, then you will get the instructions. Because if someone just goes to pizza.com right now and you don't have a forward on there, they're going to get a blank screen. They're going to get some type of error message, right? So they have to do that, and they have to set up 302 redirect, and if possible, add an SSL or secure socket layer certificate on top of it. That's a little bit more advanced, but that's what you're going to do. If you look forward, these are your advanced options. I'm going to just let you know right here. So let's look at our advanced options here. So your advanced options, it's going to ask you, hey, do you want to make this temporarily, right? And it's a 302, or do you want to make this permanent? In this particular case, you're going to make this permanent. You want this to be a permanent redirect or a permanent forward. You're going to go forward there. If it's just something temporarily, you're going to set it up for 48 hours, something. You're going to set it up for a week or 2 weeks or maybe a month, 30 days. And yeah, you can go with the temporary redirect, but you really want to do a permanent if you want it to permanently be changed like that. So you're going to go permanent redirect here. Don't worry about this. Leave the default. Do not forward. It gets more detail there. Just send everything the way you have it over to the other side. Just leave that. Do not forward. And then you're going to click SSL here. You do want, SSL stands for secure socket layer. That's going to give you the S in front of your HTTP. You don't want this to just be HTTP. You want this to be trusted when you try to use it in other social media platforms like TikTok or Instagram or Facebook. You definitely want the S in front of it because it brings credibility to your domain name. So you're going to hit SSL, which is secure socket layer. You want it to be a secure socket layer. It says, hey, your redirect will work for both HTTP and HTTPS. That's what you want. You're going to click forward there and everything should work. You're going to set that up. And it's the reason why you want it permanent is because you want this to go in this infinite loop. If you go to www.pizza.com, you're going to get pizza.com. If you go to pizza.com, you're going to go to www.pizza.com, which takes you back to pizza.com. Got it? Hopefully that was helpful. Listen, let me see your comments later here below. That's fine. It's a lot. I want to try to bring the madness for us small business owners and try to help us navigate these technical issues with our tools that we have in our tool shed, right? So then again, this has been Jenny Jones, Digital Marketing Tool Shed. I'm trying to make this make sense for you. Hopefully this is helpful. You guys take care. Until next time. Goodbye for now.